So, what do we learn this week about Baral Storm in Modern? And overall, the deck was really solid. We finished up with a 4-1 record, and I mean, the deck is legit. I think if you are looking to play Storm in Modern, this is very much the build to go with at the moment. As I mentioned in the instant deck tag, Storm is a deck that's been targeted by bannings again and again and again, but it keeps adapting, so the ability to use Gifts Ungiven is just kind of the latest adaptation, and normally Gifts Ungiven would just be way too expensive. However, the addition of Baral actually makes it work. So one of the things I noticed while playing the deck is it's not as scarily fast as older Storm decks. It's pretty much impossible for us to win on turn 2, and it's very unlikely that we'll win on turn 3, although it is technically possible. We can have turn 2 Brawl, a bunch of Rituals, Manamorphose, just naturally have one of our 2 Past in Flames in hand, and win the game that way, but this is really a turn 4 deck. The good news is it's a really consistent turn 4 deck. When we can play a Brawl or a Goblin Electromancer on turn 2, and then on turn 3, Gifts Ungiven, we're very likely to be able to win on turn 4. As far as the namesake, Brawl, it's good. I mean, the cost reduction effects are what makes this deck work. It would be much different if Manamorphose wasn't generating us a mana, instead of just being mana neutral. If Desperate Ritual and Pyretic Ritual weren't dark rituals, if we couldn't cast Past in Flames for 3 mana and Gifts Ungiven for 3 mana, all that stuff really depends on Baral / Goblin Electromancer to be good. We did have a bit of awkwardness in some games where we'd have multiple Barals or draw into multiple Barals, so I think that it's probably best to play 4 Electromancers and 3 Barals. I think overall 7 is the correct number, but it's really weird to play 4 of the legendary and 3 of the non-legendary. I've been racking my brain, and there's not too many situations I can think of where Baral is actually better than Electromancer in this deck. There's fringe things, like one time an Electromancer got hit by Forked Bolt, but all the most common removal is going to kill both of them. We're pretty light on counters. We have 3 remands in the main deck, so I guess there is like a slight upside in getting to loot with Baral off of a remand, but most of the time that's when we're comboing off and like returning our own Grape Shot to our hand or something like that. That's kind of the most common use for remand in the deck. So I really think those numbers should be switched. Otherwise, it seems really solid. Of course, it is a Storm deck, and like a lot of combo decks, there are cards that really hate on us, and we did a good job of dodging the hate in general, but you did see in the Elves game, for example, they got an Eidolon of Rhetoric down, and that's one of the downside of playing these decks. If our opponent has a really powerful hate card against our deck, Rest in Peace is a very good one. A Rule of Law / Eidolon of Rhetoric effect that makes you only cast 1 spell a turn is a good one. So there are common hate cards that really shut us down, and those cards are just devastating for our deck. We do have answers in the sideboard. Wear and Tear, for example. You also saw us get picked apart by discard in the Death Shadow match. We do have a couple Ley Lines of Sanctity, but if our opponent just has 3 discard spells in their opening hand, where it's going to be really hard for us to win. So there are things that definitely beat this deck, so I don't think it's dominant because there's really powerful hate options, but it is very good, it is very consistent, and I think that if you're going to play Storm in Modern, this is definitely the way to go, and I think that you'd have a reasonable shot. Like, if you play this deck over and over and get really good at it, learn how to play around the hate or dodge the hate, learn all the lines and intricacies and timings, I think you could have success with this deck at a tournament level. With the change of going down a Brawl, upping the Goblin Electromancer count by 1. Anyway, that's been our Much Abrew About Nothing for this week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the videos, and I will talk to you soon.